Welcome to this free immigration help channel. In this video, I will show you how to fill out I-129 petition for non-immigrant worker. Before we begin, I wanted to make a note, as I usually do in every video that I make. This is not a legal advice. I am not an immigration attorney. All of the information that is provided in this video will be directly from the official sources, like this website right here that we have in front of us, which is uscis.gov. Official government website for U.S. citizenship and immigration services. So, without further ado, let's begin. I'll show you how to navigate to that form, how to find it. You can find it on the official website of USCIS. We're going to click on Forms, which is right here at the very top, navigation menu. Then we're going to click on All Forms. And here you can scroll down and find it because they are in alphabetical and numerical order. All the forms, all of the applications, petitions that are available from USCIS. Or you can simply type in the number 129 and click search, and that will make your job of finding that petition much easier. So here it is. We're gonna click on this, and if you have been subscribed to this channel, or if you watched previous videos that I made, you probably remember I've already done this video about 3 years ago. It was a while ago, and that's one of the first things that I wanted to point out in this video. Is the very first thing that you want to do before you follow this step-by-step guide is check the edition date. And as you can see, it was just recently updated as of November 2nd 2022. So just a few months ago, this petition was actually updated. So if you're watching this video 2 years, 3 years down the road, make sure that the edition date is still the same. And if it isn't, make sure to pay a little better attention to the application, because some of the things might be different and you don't want to skip them, because I don't mention them in this video because they're not in the application just yet. Another thing that I wanted to start with before even opening up anything here are the alerts. That's another thing that is going to be most likely going to be different. A few months down the road, new alert will come up, this one will disappear. They always update. Make sure to read the alerts, because sometimes they do give you some pretty important information. So as you can see, as of August 11th, 2022, we no longer require petitioners to submit a duplicate copy of Form I-129 or a duplicate copy of any of the supporting documentation, unless we specifically ask you to do so, which is excellent news. So no more unnecessary pages sent to USCIS. So it's just one form that is being submitted. Another thing that you noticed is this form is not available to file online just yet. Now, as of the past few months, USCIS have been working very actively to implement as many online applications. If you're watching this video a few months down the road and there is an option to file this form online, go ahead and do it online. It will save you a lot of time. It will save you a lot of unnecessary stress. It's much easier to file it online. All you have to do is just register the online USCIS account, select the form, fill it out. You don't even have to worry about blank space or anything like that. We will talk about all of this in this video, because we're going to be filling out the paper application, and just pay it right there online, and that's it. It is submitted. Once it's submitted, it is accepted. Very, very simple. But because it's not available online just yet, I'm going to be showing you how to do the paper application. If the online is available, it's going to be exactly as the paper. So, two things we're going to use here. Right now we're going to open up the form I-129 itself. It's a PDF. We're going to open it in a new window. Here it is. And we're also going to open up the instructions for the form I-129. And I highly recommend you just reading through the whole instructions. It's quite a lot of pages. It's almost 30 pages. Obviously, you don't have to read everything, just the stuff that applies to you. But I highly recommend kind of skimming through it just before you fill out the application itself, just to get a better understanding of the process itself. Because one of the unique things with this particular petition is that, as you can see, it applies to a lot of different non-immigrant worker visas, a lot of them. Besides an option to change the employment-based non-immigrant status, you have the E visas, you have the H-1B, H-2As, L visas, O visas, which are for like someone who's like special, extraordinary abilities, someone who's been in the Olympics, like athletes, something special, right? You have the P visas, Q visas, there's a lot of stuff, okay? And for a different visa, there will be different things that you will have to provide and different things that you will have to fill out. Obviously, we're not going to cover all of that in this video. We'll just stick to maybe one example here and there. But keep in mind, for certain visas, like for example H visas and E visas, you do have to file the application, a separate application, with the Department of Labor. Now I'm gonna make a separate video if it's necessary for you. I'll make a separate video specifically on that application. We're not gonna cover it in this video, but keep in mind, depending on which visa you are petitioning for your worker, non-immigrant worker, there will be a whole set of requirements for you to cover. So I think I covered all my basics. You've read the instructions. You can pause the video if you haven't just yet. Let's get into the form I-129, the application or petition for non-immigrant worker. Now, usually the difference between the application and the petition is pretty straightforward. Application is where you're applying for something really for yourself. Petition is where you are the applicant petitioning for somebody else, which is in this case. Now, as a common sense, I still have to clarify it. If you're a worker, right? You're not the employee, you're the employer, prospective employer, right? You are not petitioning it for yourself, or you're not petitioning it on behalf of your employer. It is the employer that is petitioning for you. Now, if you, I would still recommend watching this video so that you know this process, and because you will be working together with your employer, filling out this form and submitting all the documents, everything, all the required evidence, because it's a team process, right? So you definitely want to make sure that you're working with your employer on this. But again, it is the employer that is filling everything out and filing for you. Okay, so let's start with the application. Finally, 7 minutes later. As you can see, in the beginning, there's a space specifically for the USCIS officer. We're not gonna fill out, that's the only blank space that we're gonna leave in this application, most likely. We'll talk about the blank space later. So we're gonna start below this. So, petitioner information, part 1. Petitioner obviously is the prospective employer, right? Is the person who is trying to petition for the non-immigrant employee. So it's going to be you, obviously. You're going to be filling out your first name, your last name, your first name, your middle name. If you don't have the middle name, just put not applicable. We're not leaving any blank spaces. If it's not applicable, put not applicable. Obviously the company name. Now here, whenever it comes to the company name, let's say if you have the DBA doing business as, then you're putting your LLC first, whatever my name of, or company. Let's do company name. That's gonna be the company name. Company name, LLC, right? And then DBA, doing business as, whatever kind of company, cool name, whatever you came up with. Now, obviously, if you know what the DBA is, you know what I mean here. So you will have to mention the whole thing. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, the mailing address, obviously, that's where you receive all the mail. It can be your business. It can be your residential. Doesn't really matter here. So you're gonna put obviously your name here, in care of who's getting the mail, street, the apartment, suite, floor, number, city or town, state, zip code, province, if there is any, if there isn't, not applicable, postal code, country, contact information, phone number, mobile number, daytime phone number. Usually they refer to like the office number. I do recommend putting both different ones if you have the opportunity to do so. Email, federal employer identification, that's your EIN, basically like social security for an individual. It's the tax number for the companies, for the business. So most likely you know that, most likely you have that. Individual IRS tax number, if you have that. If you don't have, just put none. US social security number, obviously you have that, put it again for you. Moving further, part 2, information about this petition still. obviously, requested non-immigrant classification. Now, here you will have to do a little bit of research. Specifically, what kind of non-immigrant classification are you requesting for your non-immigrant employee, prospective employee, right? Are you requesting the H-1B? Are you requesting the E-1? Now, on this page right here at the very beginning, you see that there is all of these different classifications that are available. So all you really have to do, for example, hey, you know what? I think it has to be H-1B. Click on it, just read through it. There's eligibility, there's what you need to do, there's what you need to file. It explains you in great detail. I can't unfortunately cover everything in this video because this video is just going to be ridiculously long because there's a lot of stuff in this petition. But if you do have any questions, ask them in the comments below. Every week, every other day, I try to make a video called answering your immigration questions. Right now I'm on volume 22. Obviously the next going to be volume 23. It's about 30-minute long video each time, and I go through all of the comments and I answer the questions, and I actually tag people and say, hey, your question has been answered in volume whatever. So ask your question and I'll get to it eventually, hopefully soon. But this is where you put your non-immigrant classification. Moving further, we got basis for the classification. Is it a new employment? Is it a continuation of a previously approved employment? Change in a previous approved employment? New concurrent employment? Change of employment? Amended petition? That's going to be, so most likely it's going to be new employment, but if you are updating, if you're changing the status, you're going to select one of these. So you'll have to select one of these. Provide the most recent petition application receipt number for the beneficiary. Again, if it's the update, you know, if you're changing the status or if you're renewing the status, if it was previously approved, you will have an existing application receipt number. And the receipt number you can find on the notice from the USCIS, the first notice from USCIS. Actually, every notice from USCIS, you will see the receipt number on it. But in our case, it's going to be none because it's a brand new application. Requested action, notify the office in part 4 so each beneficiary can obtain a visa or be admitted. Change the status and extend the stay of each beneficiary. Extend the stay of each beneficiary because the beneficiary now holds this status. Amend the stay of each beneficiary. Again, you will have to go through each and every one of these and see which one is applicable. Most likely it's going to be notify the office so each beneficiary can obtain a visa or be admitted. But see if this applies to you, then you will be doing that. Total number of workers included in this petition. See instructions relating to when more than one worker can be included. So if you are petitioning for more than one employee at a time, you can definitely do it with this application. Again, we're not going to cover it in this video, but if you have a question regarding it, drop it in the comments below and I will address it. So here you'll put the number of workers. If it's just one, put just one. Moving further, now we are moving to the beneficiary information. And the beneficiary is the one who is receiving the visa, is the prospective employee. So if an entertainment group, provide a group name. If it's not an entertainment group, it's just person, just put not applicable. Provide name of beneficiary. Again, last name, first name, middle name, if available. Provide all other names the beneficiary has used. So in case if, let's say, beneficiary was married and they had the different name before marriage and then they changed their last name, you're providing that old last name and then the same first name and then the middle name if there are any changes. If there's not, just put not applicable to all of that stuff. All of these fields not applicable. And the reason why you want to do that is because you don't want to leave any blank spaces, especially blank spaces like this. These kind of blank spaces the USCIS does not like at all, and I cannot tell you enough how many times I've seen these applications sent back to the applicant, to the petitioner, because they left a blank space like this. And USCIS, they don't deny it, they just send it back to you and then they attach the letter saying, they select the reason why they sent it back, why they didn't accept it, and it says, don't leave any blank spaces, put not applicable or none. Why? I personally, one of the reasons that the only reason why I think they do that is because if you leave the blank spaces, there's an opportunity for someone to, you know, write by hand, say some random name. George Soros or whatever, right? And you definitely don't want that, obviously. And USCIS doesn't want it. They don't want this to be a possibility, right? So they want to prevent that. Kind of if you're sending a blank check for the purposes of having a blank check that is not usable, but just the information, you put void on it. You don't send a blank check just by itself. Okay, so hopefully it makes sense. It's very, very important. If you're doing online application, it's not important. It doesn't matter because it just goes straight. There is no time in between, but because there is time in between, mailing and all that sort of stuff, USCIS does not like that. So everywhere like this. I know it might appear silly, but better be safe than sorry and waste a lot of time. Okay, moving further. Number 4, other information of the beneficiary, of the prospective employee, date of birth, gender, US Social Security number, if any. If there isn't any, just put none. Still, beneficiary information. If they have the alien registration number, put it in. If not, put none. Country of birth, province of birth, country of citizenship. If the beneficiary is in the United States, you'll have to complete this information right here. Date of last arrival, I-94. Now the I-94 is the departure, arrival, or arrival departure record. If you have a problem finding it, or if your employee, prospective employee, is having problems finding it, I've done a video on this channel how to retrieve the I-94 because it's a little bit of a iffy process. Sometimes it doesn't work. So if you are having trouble, I have a video on it. Passport, travel document number, date passport travel document issued, date passport travel document expires, passport or travel document country of issuance, current non-immigrant status, and you can see there's a drop down here, so you can actually select whatever the current status is. For example, if they are here as a tourist, as a visitor, you're doing B2. In that case, obviously, going up back to the application, it will be a change of status application to a worker, not the brand new application. So here we're not going to select anything. This is actually going to be not applicable. We're going to leave it blank, and once we print it out, we'll just put not applicable by hand with a black ink. Date status expires. If there is a current status, student and exchange visitor information, which is the CVs. If it's applicable, you put it here. If not, whatever. Employment authorization document. Again, most likely, if it's a brand new employment, the prospective employee is not going to have it. But again, this information is here. Current residential US address. Again, if applicable, if the employee is here. Okay, moving further to the part 4 now. Processing information. So, if a beneficiary or beneficiaries named in part 3 is or outside the United States, or a requested extension of stay or change of status cannot be granted, state the US consulate or inspection facility you want notified if this petition is approved. Okay, obviously your prospective employee will have to go to a consulate if they are outside of the United States in order to get their actual worker visa, right? Non-immigrant worker visa. So this is where you will be putting that information. So we're going to select type of office, either the consulate, either pre-flight inspection, port of entry, most likely it's going to be consulate, office address, city, US state or foreign country, if any, beneficiary's foreign address. Okay, so this is going to be the beneficiary's foreign address, where they live. Does each person in this petition have a valid passport? Again, yes, no. Moving further, still processing information, part 4. Are you filing any other petitions with this one? Okay, if you say yes, you'll have to put which one. Most likely it's going to be no if you're applying for a brand new, if it's a brand new application for a brand new employee of yours, prospective employee. In this case here, you will say yes if, for example, you're applying for not just your prospective employee, but also for his or her dependents, right? In that case, you will have to put a separate application that you're petitioning for the dependents. You get the point. Are you filing any applications for replacement initial I-94? If that was lost or something like that, you will be putting yes. If no, then no. Are you filing any applications for dependents with this petition? Again, if you did, like in the first example here, then you say yes, put the application number. If not, then no. Is any beneficiary in this petition in removal proceedings? Again, You'll have to do some explaining if that's the case. If not, then no. Have you ever filed an immigrant petition for any beneficiary in this petition? Did you indicate you were filing a new petition in part 2? Has any, if you say yes, if yes, answer the questions below. So yes, we did. It's a brand new application. So has any beneficiary in this petition ever been given the classification you are now requesting? If yes, then yes. If no, then no. Has any beneficiary in this petition ever been denied the classification? Again, you answer the question. Have you ever previously filed a non-immigrant petition for this beneficiary? If you're filing for an entertainment group, has any beneficiary in this petition not been with the group for at least 1 year? Has any beneficiary in this petition ever been a J1 exchange visitor or J2 dependent or J1 exchange visitor? If you checked yes in item number 11A, provide the dates the beneficiary maintained status as a J1, and J1 is the exchange visitor. Okay, so you're answering these questions. Once you're done, moving on to part 5. Again, these are very self-explanatory, and they do give instructions right there. If you did indicate that the new petition part 2, blah blah blah, and if you said yes, proceed to part 9. All right, so obviously it will be applicable to you if you said yes. If no, then no, then it's not applicable. Okay, moving further to part 5, basic information about the proposed employment and employer. Attach the form I-129 supplement relevant to the classification of the workers you are requesting. So there's a job title, there's a LCA or ETA case number, and LCA is that application that you will have to file with the Department of Labor that I was mentioning. If you have that, if it's applicable, this is where you will put that case number. Moving further, it's still basic information about the proposed employer, still part 5. Address where the beneficiary will work. Makes sense. You're hiring for your company. Where will they work? The location. So you have street, apartment, suite, floor number, city, state. Did you include any itinerary with the petition? And itinerary, again, if you did, if the itinerary is applicable to the classification that you're requesting, then you will have to include that. You'll say yes. If not, then no. Will the beneficiaries work for you offsite at another company or organization's location? So in case if you're doing any kind of subcontracting, you're construction workers or something like this, basically where you do have your office in a certain spot, but you don't sit there and do the work there. Maybe you do some accounting work or whatever, but the actual services are rendered in another location at the customer's location. That's what is going to be, that's basically what they're asking here. Will the beneficiaries work exclusively in the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands? CNMI, if it's applicable, yes, probably no. Then you select no. Is this a full-time position? If the answer to item number 7 is no, how many hours per week for the position? Wages, obviously. Specify if it's per hour, per month, per year. Other compensation, if there's any, like let's say for example, if it's not just a base pay, but there's also some kind of commission, if there's some kind of tips, that's where you explain basically what it is and you put the numbers in. You want to show that there is an additional income, if there is any. Date of intended employment, from, to, type of business, year established, business that is, current number of employees in the United States, gross annual income, net annual income. Now, you're probably familiar with all of that, but just in case I'm going to mention gross annual income is the whole total amount your company makes, just total everything. And then the net annual income is all of that total that your business made minus all the expenses that are associated with business. So let's say your business made $100,000 in a year. That's gross annual income. There were $20,000 of expenses for travel, for meals, for tools, all of that sort of stuff. So 100,000 minus 20,000, that's 80,000 net annual income. All right, moving forward, if you have any questions, I know I'm going fast and I'm sorry if I'm too fast for you because I've seen these forms so many times, so for me it's a little bit easier to go through them. But if you have any questions along the way, do not hesitate to ask them. I will get to them and I will answer them. That's why I created this channel. That's what it is for. All right, good news is that we're almost done. At least with this video. There's really no bad news. So let's just go on. So part 6, certification regarding the release of control technology or technical data to foreign persons in the United States. Okay, so I'm gonna read through this. With respect to the technology or technical data, the petitioner will release or otherwise provide access to the beneficiary. The petitioner certifies that it has reviewed the Export Administration Regulations (EAR) and the International Traffic in Arms Regulations (ITAR) and has determined that a license is not required from either the U.S. Department of Commerce or Department of State to release such technology or technical data to the foreign person, or a license is required. So there are a few regulations. You will know that. If you see that, you will know exactly if it's applicable to you or not. Certain things, certain devices, certain whatever, U.S. government does not want them to leak to the foreign government. So if there is some kind of sharing of the information that is involved in the position, like manufacturing of certain products, sale of certain products, obviously you're hiring an employee from another country, so there is a potential for a share of that information. If that's the case, there is a separate license that is required from either Department of Commerce or the Department of State. If it's applicable, then you will say yes, it is required. If it's not, which is in most cases it's not going to be required, then you just say a license is not required. All right, moving further, we are in the part 7. Almost done. I know there's still a lot of pages, but we're almost done. There's declaration, signature, and contact information of the petitioner. That is you, the applicant, the petitioner who is filling out this application form. So you'll put your last name, first name, title, signature. Obviously you can sign it electronically, so you'll have to print it out, go through the whole form just to double check you didn't leave anything blank, unnecessary, that's not supposed to be blank, and then you sign it. There's the date of signature, phone number, email address. Straightforward. Moving forward, now we have the preparer. If somebody prepared this form for you, all right, let's say you use the service or something like this, this is where they will be filling out their information, the preparer's information. If it's not applicable, just put not applicable in these fields. Moving further, part 9, that's what it was mentioned above, is the additional information about your petition for non-immigrant worker. Basically, that is where you do your explaining. If you answered any of those yes questions, you will have to do your explaining here. So how it works is alien registration number, if there is any. If there is none, just put none. It's not applicable. So you will look up. Let's say you need to provide more information. Let's say you answered this yes right here. I'm not even sure what it is. It doesn't really matter. I'm showing it as an example. So it is part 4, 8A. So part 4, 8A, and then the page 4. So let's see if I can remember that. So if I need to provide information here, page 4, part 4, item 8A. And there we go. We do our explaining here. This is because whatever. Few sentences, straight to the point, but a good explanation. That's how you use this supplemental, basically information form, whatever they call it, additional information. All right, so let's move on further. Then we have very specific. I'm not gonna go through each and every one of this because there's a lot of them, as you can see, but I'll go briefly. Whichever one applies to you is the one that you will be including with this application. So if it's E1, E2 classification that you're requesting, you will be filling out this form right here, which is, again, it's just an application form. It's very straightforward. Name of the petitioner, employer's name, right? Principal product, employee position. Here is basically you are describing in detail the nature of the business. Very straightforward. Don't be intimidated by this at all. It's just the information about you, about your company. You see still additional information about the U.S. employer. How is the U.S. company related to the company abroad, place of incorporation or establishment in the USA, date of incorporation, nationality of ownership, assets, again, net worth, net annual income, staff in the United States, completed filing for an E1 treaty trader, total amount of total annual gross trade for year ending, percent of total gross. Basically, you get the point. All the information, if it is applicable. Again, we're not going to go too deep into this. We're going to go to the further one. Again, there's trade agreement supplement. If it is applicable to you, you will go through it, you will fill it out. Again, it's not a lot of stuff. In the supplemental stuff, it's not a lot. It's just some information about you, and then basically the signature certifying that you filled it out. There's age classification, which is probably one of the most common ones whenever it comes to filing this petition for a non-immigrant worker, is this age classification. So maybe I'll go through it just, because it is the most popular. So we'll do it in our example. So again, the name of the petitioner, name of the beneficiary, provide the total number of the beneficiaries if there is more than one. If it's just one, just put their name here and we can leave this blank, or put one, or put not applicable, because you put the name of the beneficiary here and it says or. List each beneficiary's prior period of stay in H or L classification in the United States. You'll have to put this information here. Classification sought, again, what kind of classification, and you can select only one. So it's either H-1B, specialty occupation, H-1B1 for Chile and Singapore specifically, H-1B2, B3, H-2A for agricultural workers, H-3 for trainee. You will know exactly what you are selecting. If you selected A or D, in item number 4, which is right here, and they're filing an H-1B cap petition, blah, 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 including a petitioner under U.S. advanced degree exemption, provide the beneficiary confirmation number if there is any. Are you filing this petition on behalf of a beneficiary subject to the Guam CNMI cap? Very, very specific, probably not, but if yes, then you put yes, very straightforward. Are you requesting a change of employer? Does any beneficiary in this petition have ownership interest in the petitioning organization? If it's the case, then you will have to do some explanation. Complete this section if filing for H-1B classification. Describe the proposed duties, describe the beneficiary's present occupation, and summary of prior work experience. And then just some signatures, names, and the dates. All right, complete this section if filing for H-2A or H-2B. Again, very specific. If you're filling out that, you'll have to go through it, fill it out. If not, obviously, you can just skip all of this. We don't need to worry about this. We got H-1B and H-1B1 data collection and filing fee exemption supplement. Again, if this applies to you, you're going through it, you're applying it. I'm not gonna go through it because this video is already getting very, very long. You got your L classification supplement. You got your O classification and P classification supplement. I think there is, yes, also Q1. There should be R1 and P1, I think, is also on this. Nope, that's it. This is it. Okay, so the R1 is the last supplement that is available for this petition right here. Okay, so we're done with the petition. Now let's talk about a few other things before I let you go in this video. I know it's becoming very, very long. Another things that I want to mention is the checklist of the required documentation that you want to be sending with your petition. Again, it's very broad because there's just so many different classifications, and for each classification, obviously there's going to be a different evidence that you will be sending, but you can find it here in the checklist. I'll put the link in the description below. As you can see, all of these classifications are broken down by one. So let's say if you're doing H-1B, specialty occupation worker, just click on this drop down and all of the evidence is shown here, what you will have to provide with your application. If you're filing L1, there you go, all the evidence for L1. So pretty straightforward. That's why I'm not concentrating too much on this because it's kind of self-explanatory and very specific. But again, if you have any questions along the way, just go ahead and ask them and I will be happy to address them. There's also a filing fee. It's not free. It's $460. You can pay it a few different ways. You can put it money order, personal check, cashier's check, or you can pay by the credit card. Just a regular personal check in most of the cases works just fine mailed with your application. So very, very straightforward, $460. Now where do you file? That's the last thing that we're going to cover in this video, and then I promise I will let you go and I'll just leave it up to the questions. So we're going to click on this link right here, direct filing addresses for form I-129, and there you go, regular processing. Let's see where the actual address, there you go. So we got a drop downs again for the filing locations for the different classifications for the employee. So depending on which one you're filing for, there will be a different location. So in our example, we're doing H1B. So we're going to click on this drop down. And as you can see, there are quite a few locations here, but H1B and H1B regular cap subject petitions is going to be, so H1B and H1B3 petitions requesting to be counted towards the regular H1B cap of 65,000. Okay, so in this case, these petitions are accepted at the service centers of the California Service Center, Nebraska Service Center, Texas Service Center, so it doesn't really matter. If selected to file, please refer to your registration selection notice to determine the appropriate service center at which to file your location. Then use the address to file to the right that corresponds to the center and your chosen method of filing. You must file your petition at the service center indicated on your selection notice, or your petition will be rejected. So it is very, very important to file your petition to the correct service center, not any random one of this, to the correct. So you'll have to actually go through and see which one applies to you. Likewise, let's say if it's not H1B, but let's say, for example, O petition, all right, same thing. There are different service centers. Again, these petitions are accepted as at California Service Center and Vermont Service Center, so just two. Please refer to the service center charged below to determine which service center you must use. So we have California Service Center. If you're sending USPS, this is the address that you're sending. If you're sending FedEx, UPS, this is where you're sending. Now there's also I-129 premium processing. If you're doing the premium processing, then you're sending the to the USPS. If you're using USPS, you're sending it to this address, and if you're using FedEx, UPS, you're using to this address. For Vermont Service Center premium service processing, again, you have a separate address. So again, you'll have to go through this. Be very careful to which service center you're sending to, because as you've seen, if you send it to the wrong one, it will be denied. So with this being said, I'm gonna stop this video because it's already getting very, very long. I will leave it up for the questions. If you have any questions specifically to this application, just ask them in the comments below and I will be happy to address them. Hopefully this video was helpful. Thank you for watching. God bless, and I will see you in the next video.